My dad looked me straight in the eyes and said, "From now on, your brother comes first." I nodded like I understood, grabbed my backpack, and walked out the front door. What I didn't know was that 7 years later, a phone call in the middle of the night would expose a family secret that would change everything I thought I knew about my father. My name is Noah, and growing up, I always felt like I was competing in a race I was never supposed to win. My older brother, Ethan, was the golden child. He was captain of the football team. Honor student. Student council president. Every trophy had his name on it. Every family conversation somehow became about him. Whenever relatives visited, Dad proudly showed them Ethan's awards. When it came to me, the conversation usually ended with, "Noah is finding his way. Finding my way." That became my label. I wasn't a troublemaker. I stayed out of trouble. I got decent grades. I worked part-time after school. But compared to Ethan, I was invisible. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. Maybe I wasn't smart enough. Maybe if I became more like Ethan, Dad would finally notice me. So I tried. I joined sports. Dad barely came to my games. I entered science competitions. He forgot the dates. On my 17th birthday, Dad missed dinner because Ethan had a college recruitment meeting. He apologized the next day. "I had to be there for your brother." I smiled and said it was okay. It wasn't. A year later, I was accepted into a respected engineering program. I couldn't wait to tell Dad. I imagined him smiling. Maybe even hugging me. Instead, he looked uncomfortable. "I'm proud of you." For 1 second, my heart lifted. Then he continued. "But we can't afford to help you." I frowned. "What?" "Ethan's medical school tuition comes first." I understood that money wasn't unlimited. What hurt wasn't the decision. It was how quickly he made it. No discussion. No alternatives. No effort to help. Just a simple answer. Your brother comes first. I took out student loans. Worked nights. Graduated exhausted but determined. During those years, Dad called occasionally. Mostly to talk about Ethan. Your brother got another scholarship. Your brother is doing amazing. Your brother bought a new condo. Every conversation reminded me exactly where I stood. Eventually, I stopped answering. Not because I hated him. Because it hurt too much. 7 years passed. I built a career designing infrastructure projects. I rented a small apartment. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. I hadn't spoken to Dad in almost 11 months. Then came the phone call. It was 2:17 in the morning. Dad's name appeared on my screen. For a second, I considered ignoring it. Something told me not to. I answered. His voice sounded nothing like I remembered. Weak. Broken. "Noah." Silence. Then I heard him crying. "I need your help." My stomach tightened. "What happened?" "It's your brother." I immediately assumed Ethan had been hurt. "Is he okay?" Dad took a deep breath. "No." Those 2 letters changed everything. I drove 4 hours without stopping. When I arrived at the hospital, Dad looked 10 years older. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red. For the first time in my life, he looked lost. He hugged me. Really hugged me. The kind of hug I'd wanted since childhood. "I don't understand," I whispered. Dad looked toward the intensive care unit. Ethan was arrested. I blinked. What? Apparently, Ethan had secretly partnered with investors in a medical technology startup. The business failed. Millions disappeared. Authorities believed financial records had been manipulated. An investigation began. Then investors filed lawsuits. Everything collapsed within weeks. The perfect son wasn't so perfect anymore. Dad buried his face in his hands. I had no idea. Neither did I. For years, Ethan looked successful, confident, responsible. Now everything was falling apart. But that wasn't the biggest surprise. Not even close. The next morning, twist number 1 arrived. While helping Dad gather paperwork from his house, I found an old metal box hidden inside his office closet. Dad looked uncomfortable the moment he saw it. "Leave that." I froze. "Why?" His expression changed. For several seconds, he didn't answer. Then he quietly said, "Open it." Inside were dozens of letters. Every birthday card I had ever made him. Every Father's Day drawing. Every school certificate. Every newspaper clipping about my achievements. Everything. Perfectly organized. Carefully preserved. I stared at him. "I thought you didn't care." His eyes filled with tears. "I cared about every single one." I couldn't understand. "Then why?" He sat down slowly. And told me something I never expected. When I was 16, Dad had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition. Doctors warned him it might become fatal without surgery. He never told us. Instead, he quietly took extra jobs. Sold investments. Worked himself nearly to death. Not for himself. For Ethan. Because Ethan's dream of becoming a doctor depended on tuition Dad couldn't afford. I thought if one of my sons became a physician. His voice cracked. He'd never struggled the way I did. I sat there speechless. Everything suddenly looked different. Not better. Just different. His favoritism wasn't rooted in love. It was rooted in fear. Fear had made him choose one child over another. It still hurt. But now I understood where it came from. Then came twist number 2. A lawyer arrived later that afternoon asking to speak privately. Apparently, Ethan had made a statement. He admitted something shocking. The missing money. The fraudulent documents. The financial decisions. Dad had absolutely nothing to do with any of it. In fact, Ethan confessed he had lied repeatedly. He borrowed against family assets. Forged signatures. Even used Dad's retirement account without permission. Dad wasn't protecting Ethan anymore. He had become Ethan's victim. The realization devastated him. I kept believing he'd make everything worthwhile. His voice shook. I never realized he was hiding all this. For the first time in my life, I didn't see the strong father I grew up fearing. I saw an exhausted man crushed by guilt. Then the climax arrived. Weeks later, Ethan asked to meet us. It happened inside a quiet attorney's office. He looked completely different. No expensive suits. No confidence. No arrogance. Just regret. He looked directly at me. I owe you an apology. I remained silent. He continued. I spent years enjoying being the favorite. His honesty surprised me. I knew Dad chose me. He looked down. And I let him. The room became painfully quiet. Then he turned toward Dad. You sacrificed your relationship with Noah because of me. Dad couldn't even look at him. Tears rolled down his face. Then Ethan said something I'll never forget. Noah became the son you deserved. I wasn't prepared for those words. Neither was Dad. He broke down completely. I failed both of you. For years, I dreamed about hearing him admit that. I imagined feeling victorious. Satisfied. Instead, I only felt sad. Because nobody had really won. Not me. Not Ethan. Not Dad. We had all lost something. Years. Memories. Time we'd never get back. After the meeting, Dad asked if we could talk alone. We sat on a park bench outside. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, he broke the silence. I kept choosing what I thought was the future. He stared at the ground. And every time I did, I abandoned the sun standing right in front of me. My eyes filled with tears. He reached into his jacket pocket. Then handed me something small. It was my 8th grade science fair ribbon. The one I thought he'd thrown away decades earlier. I carried this in my desk every day. I couldn't speak. I was proud of you. He paused. I just forgot to tell you. That sentence hurt more than everything else combined. Because sometimes love that is never shown feels exactly like no love at all. Over the following year, things slowly changed. Dad stopped trying to erase the past. Instead, he acknowledged it. He attended my project openings. Called just to ask how I was doing. Learned to listen instead of comparing. The effort wasn't perfect. But it was real. As for Ethan, he accepted responsibility. He cooperated with investigators. Worked to repay what he could. And for the first time in his life, he stopped expecting someone else to rescue him. People often ask me what that late-night phone call changed. They assume it reunited our family overnight. It didn't. Healing isn't that simple. That phone call changed something far more important. It destroyed the story I had believed my entire life. I thought my father loved my brother more. The truth was far more tragic. He loved us both. He just spent years making decisions based on fear instead of fairness. And fear has a way of hurting the very people we're trying to protect. Today, the ribbon from my 8th grade science fair sits on a shelf in my office. Not because it reminds me of being overlooked. Because it reminds me that sometimes the hardest words a parent can say are not "I love you." There I was wrong. And sometimes, one phone call really can change everything.